everybody. It's 1:30 on a lovely Saturday. It's at least nice here in Kansas. It stopped raining after the last storm. So to go through is from a comic book shop in Adrian, Michigan. I think I first hooked up with from a post in one of the comic book collectors Facebook groups that I'm in. The shop is called RadRaptor Comics, and they have kind of on every Friday. They do a raffle for some kind of rated book, and I haven't done that yet. But the two things that I, much to the chagrin of my wallet, have begun participating in is their new auctions that start every 2 or 3 days, where it's just a simple Facebook auction. Every bid starts at $1. You got to go up in dollar increments. So you just kind of troll the chat to see what you want to get. They add anywhere between 40 to 50 items at a time to, have folks bid on and beg on. And then the other one is kind of the comic book equivalent of the Hunger Games, where they will post something like 20 items between auctions, and all you have to do is be the first person to look at the item and say, I want that, and pay the price. And there have been a couple of things that I've been second slow on from the I want that post to get, but now I have a shop on my radar that if I can't find things here in town, in Kansas, then I know other things to look for. So I've bid on a bunch. I've been fairly active, and they're getting a lot of people interested from not near them to participate in these auctions. So the shipping to get these were a little slow, so I don't know which of the lots are in the box, but unlike most of the time when I do one of these videos and I go, "Ooh, this looks cool. I don't know what that is." I at least have the knowledge to share as to why I was interested in up, or why the description of it looked good and how it could be useful. Because one of the things I'm thinking of as the school year slowly begins to wind down here in Kansas, that in terms of planning for things I want to use in the classes I know that I'm teaching next year, I have strategically purchased some either floppies or a couple of trades and graphic novels that are things that I can use to help teach some concepts in any of my classes. And good God, Mr. Jeffrey there at RadRaptor did a hell of a job taping and packing this, that I should have, not committed foul number one and at least opened the box and started cutting the tape. So I'm sorry to the whole 2 people watching that you've got to see me fight bubble wrap for a couple minutes, because I'm done. But hey, we're through. All right. So I've got a decent size stack going. So we will start with the big trade that I'm excited about, that I saw in the back, and work our way to the floppies in the front. So first book that I picked up is a book that I have not read, but is something that I have had a lot of people recommend after seeing some of the things that I've talked about on the vlog, some of the books that I've kind of chatted with other folks about, and jumping in on their live streams. One of the most common recommendations for me. I'm fighting tape again. I got distracted. I'm sorry. I'll figure that out when I get there. Is the image book from Joe Kelly and Jim Nomura, or J.M. Ken Nomura, I Killed Giants. It, not only won a bunch of random awards, which sometimes is a reason for me to pick up a book that I'm behind on, but a lot of people have kind of talked to me about, since I'm liking a lot of the grayscale style, the slim color palette style, or if I look, we're looking at some zines in terms of some of the, non-digitally gussied up drawings we see there, that this is something that people have highly recommended to me. And to be honest, this is probably the book that, as soon as we're done, if I don't finish reading Black Mask's We Can Never Go Home, then this is definitely one of the top things on the pile for me to read. The second thing that I picked up from an I Want That post, I was kind of surprised because I didn't know it existed. It's Henry David Thoreau, at Walden, and it's a graphic novel about, kind of Thoreau, his philosophy, kind of playing with the ideas in the couple of different books that are prominent, that everybody should have read, in high school, or you at least talk about in American history class. In both my world history class and my American government classes, I talk a lot about Thoreau, that I use some of his principal writings, in On Civil Disobedience, to kind of talk about where he's coming from philosophically. I take some of the ideas from On Walden to kind of look at the version of enlightenment that starts to spread throughout the world in the mid 1800s, late 1700s. And you can tell that I'm a bad history teacher because I don't remember a goddamn thing about dates. So I'm excited to be able to pull some images by that. And this is going to be the first book that I've bought for myself that is branded with some Disney branding on it, aside from some of the Disney books that come through. I think it's either Image or Boom. Like, my daughter has a couple of Frozen floppies. My son has and Incredibles 2, couple of comics. So those kinds of things are there. This I picked up in one of the auctions. It's the Carnageized variant for Daredevil number 8. And while I didn't ever do a lot of writing or reviewing of Absolute Carnage, because as that event was going on, it was the first big event with a fuck ton of crossovers that I really kind of felt overwhelmed with for the first time as a reader, right? That when I jumped back into the game last June, I explicitly came to the store for House of X and Powers of 10. And that was an easy event for me to consume because I didn't have to worry about this pulled over into 400,000 different storylines like I kind of have to do now if I want to keep tabs on what's going on in the Dawn of X world. So I was really, really excited to pick that up because I like Carnage. I love Daredevil. So I think really if that book has zero monetary significance ever, at least for me, it's got, a collision of two things that I really pleasure in reading. The second kind of random series that I'm kind of collecting, and it started before Disney announced that they were going to have the Disney Plus series on it, are some of the What If books. That's probably the newest What If book I've picked up. It's What If the Age of Apocalypse Had Not Ended. So it's something, again, it captures on a lot of my excitement as an X-Men fan. And, it's something that, What If the Age of Apocalypse Has Never Ended pops up in, one of the What If episodes, then I will look at it. One of the books that I loved the most, and then, shit got shut down because of COVID, probably one of the most beautiful single issues that I've ever read is the giant size X-Men Jean Grey Emma Frost. If you're not familiar with this book, there are literally like 10 words or less in the entirety of the fucking book, but the art and the way just the art is used to kind of tell the story is fantastic. So, not only do I really, really enjoy that book, but I thought seeing the variant cover, and I can't remember. I think I have a 1 in 10 and a 1 in 500 somewhere in this stack of different books that I'm going to kind of get the variants, because this is a book felt comfortable being able to discuss what the art meant in or to a book instead of just going, the art is on fire. The third pile that's in here, and I'm missing the number 1, so I'll see if that complimentary book is in the stack. Nope, it might be in the other box. So I really, really, really have taken a loving to Garth Ennis. That's the Punisher I remember reading when I was younger. The bloody, gorier, the more give zero fucks Daredevil or Punisher that showed up. So I'm interested in seeing a lot of takes that Garth Ennis has on different kinds of characters. So I've got a couple of issues of the Thor Vikings run that came from Max, written by Garth Ennis. So this is something that I think will kind of be a cool, exploratory read, since I know what Ennis does to the Punisher versus how Marvel kind of treats and sanitizes down the Punisher a little bit more. In terms of that kind of contrast. The next one is X-Farce. It is from Eclipse Comics. It's a knock on the X-Force, and I, kind of enjoy good satire, good parody. I don't know if this is good in either of those respects, but, since X-Force is one of the runs that I'm really enjoying in the Dawn of X runs, I think it's kind of cool to look at a spin-off of it. And it's from another publisher that, if you've paid attention to some of the things that I'm, tweeting about or what's popping up on the blog, I am spending most of my time on the weekends discovering and falling in love with more independent publishers and creators. So that, I think, to me at least, fits into the theme of the weekend, since everything else in here is, relatively big box. The next one that I've got up is the New 52 Teen Titans. The Teen Titans is a group that I'm trying to wrap my head around and get into more. My son loves the Teen Titans Go that's on, is it on Cartoon Network? It shows up all the effing time on like Amazon. So it's a group that I'm trying to kind of get in and enjoy more. And, everybody kind of speaks volumes about how most of the work that's done in the New 52 launches are pretty good. That, a couple weeks back, I wrote about the Court of Owls trilogy box set, that first kind of big arc of Snyder and Capullo's New 52 shot at Batman. So I'll see how I feel about Teen Titans #1. The next one I got is a variant cover of Batgirl #29. I don't really have a connection to Batgirl. I don't have an affinity for the character, but I thought the cover was kind of cool, and B, I kind of like this new modernization of a non-blind Lady Justice, in terms of, her tilting the scales in one hand and holding a sword or a dagger in the other. So that was mostly cool cover. And, I'll pop it open, give it a read, and see if it's something that I want to get in on. The next one I've got is, I think, one of the oldest books from the lot. It's 1976 #1's 2-in-1 The Thing, that I've started attempting to increase some of my collection of Silver and Bronze Age comics. For not liking a lot of the Fantastic Four, which I have no fucking idea why I don't like them. I just don't get into them that much. I love Ben Grimm. I love The Thing. I love looking at the struggle of everything that he deals with as a person who has been kind of transformed into a monster against his own will, right? You see conflict in some of the Fantastic Four books about how everybody else is still seemingly normal, right? That while everybody got powers from that trip into space, it did not physically alter their makeup, and Ben Grimm is the only one who can't change away from, the orange monster. So that's kind of the big reason why I bought it, is if I'm going to start collecting more and more Fantastic Four oriented things, find more books that focus on the Thing. In the same vein as my talking about New 52 on Teen Titans, I picked up #1, Deathstroke from the New 52. Deathstroke has been a character that, I was interested in looking at how he was treated in Suicide Squad. Me and boys from Comic Burrito has, something to kind of break up one of the characters that I like fighting with. And I was like, oh shit, I got nothing but time, so I'll read more about this guy. Two more books to talk about after these. I have also been a big fan of old Hulk books. That was one of the things that I remembered, collecting and reading as a kid. Some of these like late or early to mid 80s Hulk titles. So these are both from 1981, but I've got Hulk 213 and 260 to kind of start filling in some of the blanks of my older Hulk runs that I have. And if I ever, go back and help my parents clean out their storage unit from when they moved to a new spot, maybe I'll see if I can find some of the old Hulk books that I know I have. Two books left. The next one is Excalibur #71. This is the one that has kind of that holographic cover imprint on it. So I think, this is something that you don't see pop up all that often anymore in terms of the use of the holographic cover, mostly because we've got cooler shit to look at now. But, in the 90s when you would see things come out, and sorry, you're getting a glare from a window, but it's just something kind of cool to see that pop up on a cover. And I enjoyed a lot of the new Excalibur run that's going on in the Dawn of X universe. So, I've started picking up some older Excalibur titles that I picked up a couple that are here on the like prestige format shelf in my collection. That it's been fun kind of reading more about the offshoot in the X-Men universe that I knew the least about when all of those initial spin-off books came out. And then the last book that I've got today from RadRaptor, and I swear to God, I have a fuck ton more coming because they had so much cool stuff up in any of those auctions or sales, is the 1 in 10 variant of X-Force #1. Like I said earlier, I am obsessed with the X-Force. In December, there was once we had 15 books out from the post House and Powers of X run. We had 3 of each of Excalibur, Marauders, Fallen Angels, the proper X title, and X-Force. That literally on the Chops Comics podcast, I was the one responsible going, and here's what the fuck is going on in the X world. That way I could help people figure out, if they wanted to know what was going on in the world, which titles they could vet in or out. And I made a lovely little chart on Canva that I threw up on the blog, mostly because if I didn't have notes, I'd forget everything. And I think after I get done reading a couple of Black Mask titles that I have here on the shelf, and probably the 2 trades that I've got that just came in the mail yesterday, I think I will probably go back and dive into the X world to reacclimate myself and update that chart, since now we have Hellions, we have all of the giant size books that are coming in. And if you haven't read, I think the last one that came out before the quarantine and the shutdown of shops was the giant size Nightcrawler, which that was a really, really cool book to read. So That's everything that I picked up in the mail today. You can see from this little bit of mess behind me that I've got some extra books to file. If you've seen any of the videos that I randomly decided to start doing from when quarantine started to now, that you'll notice that my trades are about to escalate over to their fourth shelf of this stack. And my wife, every time she sees more books come in, she goes, God damn it, where are you going to put all this when you leave the closet? And I said, you name a space where I can display and get stuff easily, and I will, I'll move it. But for now, if I'm going to mumble or I need a quiet place to hide from the kids and write while I read books or listen to streams while I write, I've got, plenty of things here. Here in about 20 minutes, I have another review or two coming out on the blog, as it is indie weekend. The two things that I know I am planning on publishing that I polished up last night. Number one is another SourcePoint Press review that I think I finally reached the bottom of everything that I picked up from SourcePoint that they were promoting on New or Free Comic Book Week, and then the other subsequent things that I bought from them. If you're not reading SourcePoint, you're missing out on some really, really, really cool takes on a lot of comic tropes that we tend to see repeated. You're missing some really good horror books that there are some that will even rival some of the things that are coming out in like the Hill House wing of the DC publications. And then the other thing that I know I've got coming out today, I sat and listened to Mad Cave Studios like product showcase live stream on Friday, which was 4 hours of me essentially listening about a publisher that I had tangentially heard of, but have not read any of their books. If you look on the download section of their website, they have a bunch of free number ones up, like a lot of other smaller publishers have done throughout the quarantine or the lack of distribution of new materials. So I've got some reviews of the 3 titles that I went ahead and decided to purchase from Mad Cave that will come up today as well. And then the last thing that I was polishing up before 1:30 rolled around, or 2:30 if you're in the Eastern time zone, in some of those interviews that I've been doing with other people who are far more interesting than me on Twitter or on YouTube. I've interviewed Lost in Comics, the Comic Burrito, Wes from Comics The Gathering, Isaac from Pixar Nerd Studios, who, if you haven't seen the new icon or channel art on any of my social media, he did all of it, and it's fan-fucking-tastic. I've got an interview that I plan on publishing today with Peter Smart, who is from, I think it's a suburb of Chicago, who I, showed some pops and other things that I purchased from him like 6 weeks ago. But I interviewed him to peek into his vast troves of knowledge on comic book collecting and his insight on some of the industry, since he works at a comic book shop as well. And then I have 3 other interviews where I'm working on putting the questions together so my interviews don't seem repetitive if you've read them. The Shaq for DC Comics, who, if you've looked at anything that he puts up and you say that you have not read or did not like Philadelphia, prepare to have some fucking knowledge dropped on your head. And he's got real good takes on a lot of DC titles, which I can't say enough that those are the takes that I'm looking into, because I want to expand my readership or my reading base. And then Comic Busters, who is my favorite man, maybe my only Canadian person that I interact with on Twitter. And then if you saw at the end of or beginning of this week, I posted a review of a book called Black Birch, which is a new title from Juan Doe and Eduardo Centron. It's a self-published book. It's exclusively on Comixology for the moment. I have some interview questions that I am working on for those gentlemen, because that book fucking blew my mind. And I kind of want a little bit of insight from them in terms of the struggles they dealt with trying to either sell or sell a book to a publisher for physical distribution during COVID, or what their frustrations were doing that, and what led to the ultimate decision of them to release it digitally. And if I can get a sweet trade or a couple of floppies of that book in my hand, because the art's beautiful, the story is awesome. And if you're looking for something different, a breath of fresh air that's radically different from anything that I've talked about today, you should by all means check that book out, because it is amazing. But that's all I got for you today. Maybe on Monday or Tuesday we'll see what's in the mail. I know I've got something coming from a couple of eBay mystery auctions that I foolishly bid on, but they were only $9. And I think I have a book that I've been hunting for 6 months that I found on All Places, and you can hate me for giving Jeff Bezos more of my goddamn money during this economic time. But I should have the first volume of the Armory Wars, which are Claudio Sanchez's books, the front man of Coheed and Cambria, that are put together to kind of complement and help tell the story that the conceptual albums walk through. So that's what I got going on. That's what was in the box. Like I said, I've got more things coming out today. If you popped in to listen to me mumble and do hopefully a better than the first unboxing video I ever did, thanks for stopping by. You can like, subscribe, you can go check out the blog, share it with your friends. I'm more comfortable in a written medium. I still haven't mastered the non-shitty YouTube video. Maybe I'll find a partner in crime that we can have a conversation during this, if the next time I go live or the next time I post something, because I know I sound like Eeyore on Downers. God didn't gift me with a dynamic voice, but to each their own. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.